Hey guys, what is going on? Matt Smith here. Thanks so much for watching the channel. Before we get rolling here, like and subscribe. You know the drill. Helps me out a ton. I appreciate it. Drop yourself in those comments. We're in New York. We are in New York City in Times Square. Day one of the Heisman festivities concluded today. It's been a interesting here 48 hours certainly for the program and just getting out here. Quick New York story, land at LaGuardia, hop in the Uber, and if you've ever seen IQ, okay, Walter Matthau, I think it's Tim Robbins is also in that movie. Walter Matthau as Albert Einstein. That is my Uber driver. It's the Turkish Albert Einstein, okay? That's how I would describe him. Guy got to be 70 years old. Well, long and the short of it, he ends up making a mistake that takes me an hour out of my way instead of going to the hotel that I stayed at last night and then came here today to stay at the media hotel. And, bumper to bumper traffic, 5 o'clock on a Thursday night on a bridge, you're not going anywhere. So there I was, stuck in what should have been a 15-minute Uber that took an hour and a half. So it was a great start to the trip. The one thing you got to love about the big city is just being able to pull up Google, right? Go to anywhere, any restaurant, find some good reviews, and just pop by, even if the restaurant's not packed. Like an example, I wanted sushi last night, so I go get sushi. And in Colorado, if you go to a sushi restaurant and there isn't anybody in there, you kind of raise your eyebrow, go, I don't know about this. I don't know about this place. But out here, there's so many options that if that happens, then you figure you found a great little hole in the wall spot, and I did. And I miss that about Chicago for sure. And so, being in New York, when in Rome, got to eat well. So had a nice dinner last night. I'll tell you, this city's no joke, though. It is expensive out here. There's no doubt. Hopping an Uber, if it's more than like 10 minutes, you're dropping 50, $60, no problem. No problem. But yeah, look, I mean, it is remarkable how many people they managed to jam into this small area that is New York. I was looking it up. It's like 8.2 million live in New York City, which is wild, which is absolutely wild. And so, compared to like 2.5, I think it was in Chicago. So it's just incredible. Everywhere you look is just high rise after high rise. This is my second time here, but it's been a long time. So, definitely got to kind of take in everything a little bit more this time around. Very interesting hotel setup. Had never stayed at the Marquis, clearly, my second time here. Wild wild hotel. It's massive, massive, massive. And you're right in the heart of Times Square, and we're right in the heart of it here. And, today was the first Heisman event. So essentially today was more, a little PR, a little for the media. We gathered, they had this watch presentation where all the finalists were presented with Axia watches, and their CEO got up and spoke for a while about how I guess he was a champion lacrosse player at Penn growing up, and I guess he wanted to create a keepsake. So he had these timepieces made, and you know. It was what it was. I got to tell you, though, I'll be critical of the watch. It's got the leather band. I'm not a big leather band guy, but at the same time, a Heisman watch, I mean, you put that thing under glass, right? You're never taking that thing out and wearing the Heisman watch. At least I probably wouldn't wear it. I mean, nice watch, though. Cool memento, no doubt about it. And certainly a nice little, at least like a little consolation prize for the runners up. And yes, we did see Ashton Genty and Cam Ward and Dylan Gabriel and Travis Hunter. And before I start on Travis, because I mean, we've talked about him all year. You guys, if you've been watching the channel, you understand, my feelings toward Travis and how fortunate we were to be able to watch him. And this is no disrespect to Dylan Gabriel and the undefeated Oregon Ducks. I expected him to be there. I know why he was there. But looking at Cam, looking at Ashton, looking at Travis, and then looking at Dylan, it's kind of like which one doesn't fit? Okay? Because the award goes to the best player in college football. In no universe is Dylan Gabriel a better player than Shedeur Sanders. I understand how it's voted upon. As I said, I expected it. Voters typically, tend to look at the best quarterback on the best team, and Oregon and Miami have had fewer wins, had fewer losses in Colorado. So I understand why he was there, but I'd have to tie my brain in a knot, put on a blindfold to pretend that Dylan Gabriel was more deserving of that than Shedeur Sanders. But hey, that's just me. Credit to Oregon. Look, I'm not saying anything, but as I've said, before, Dylan Gabriel is in the system. Shedeur is the system. And Joel Klatt put out a great video actually a little bit earlier this week. Maybe I'll see if I can't find it, drop it in the comments, but worth watching because I've been saying that for a little while. Well, Joel went through and, put all the numbers together. I think Shedeur was responsible for an FBS leading 82% of Colorado's offense, which is one of the highest marks in like the last 25 years. If you've watched Colorado, you understand. There's a reason why Shedeur is going to be the number one quarterback off the board, could be the number one overall pick if it's not Travis. And it's funny, we've been talking about that for a long time. And I remember in the offseason, and, Coach Prime said it last year. And then once it was proven on the field, it was pretty obvious that no matter what, these dudes were going to be high first round picks. And I've had complete and total belief in the two of them since day one, truthfully. I mean, they're just such unbelievable talents. Once you get a chance to put your eyes on them, it's pretty clear. And so, I just would have liked to see Shedeur there because I know this is he is just as much involved in Travis's Heisman as Travis to a degree, right? I mean, who knows if Travis ends up putting the numbers up offensively without a quarterback like Shedeur? There are plenty of talented receivers around the country that just don't have the quarterback play, and certainly that's not every reason why, obviously, but it is partially the reason why Travis won the Bolitnikoff, which was incredible. And before we get to the Heisman stuff, just a recap on what happened last night. Travis pulls home this week the lot, the Hornug for the second time, the lot impact for Defensive Player of the Year, the Hornug for the most versatile player in college football for the second consecutive year. Then, for the first time in NCAA history, he wins the Bolitnikoff, given to the best wide receiver in the country. It was between him, Tedero McMillan, and what's his name? Nick Nash, I think it is, out in San Jose State. Nice years from both of them. Travis, I mean, come on. Power four wise, it wasn't even close. Tedero McMillan had a couple of nice games, but not nearly consistent enough. And I think we've learned now that individual awards don't typically go to the Mountain West Conference or leagues below what is considered the best level of competition. Travis deserved it. He earned it, and he got it. Not only did he get all of those other aforementioned honors, but he also took home the Bednarik for the best defensive player in college football. First time ever in NCAA history, one player has won an individual award at the end of the year for offense and for defense. He just happened to do it in the same season. I'm really, really glad that voters around the country understood the assignment, okay? Travis should have clean swept the awards last night. They gave the Maxwell Award to Ashton Jeanty for the most outstanding player in college football, which was actually, I think Brian Howell had the number, the first time since Ty Detmer, maybe in 1990, that a power conference team had taken home an individual award, I believe, or at least that specific award. I'd have to go back and double check. But either way, it's unprecedented. And ironically enough, I think it's almost a decade out of the last two, the Maxwell and the Camp Award, which Travis also won, the Walter Camp for best player, most excellent player, went to different players. But the truth is that the Heisman odds speak for themselves, and there's been a bit of a debate online raging about, well, 8 of the last, whatever years the Maxwells won it, and 8 of the last, whatever years the Camp has won it, and so, they kind of share the wealth a little bit. But I think if we're all being honest, we understand Travis should have clean swept, and if anything, what did yesterday serve to do? It served to show the Oklahoma Sports Hall of Fame and the Jim Thorpe Award voters how dumb they really are. I mean, talk about absolutely throwing the reputation of one of the most prestigious collegiate awards out the window with that unbelievable glaring error. I mean, honestly, I watch college football every weekend outside of Caleb Downs, who plays safety, which, look, I get it. I mean, he's a good player, but come on, guys. Like, what are we doing there? That one still bugs me. And Travis was even asked about it today, and he's like, hey, look, they're giving it to who they felt deserved it. I think at the end of the day, he's going to end up with Coach Prime's Thorpe Award too. At the end of the day, the amount of hardware that he's going to have to display and what he told us today was his next game room. It's going to be incredible, as will be the trail of honors he leaves in Legacy Hall at CU. And Adam asked him about that today, and he said, yeah, I was thinking about it. I walked by the other day and I was like, oh, they'll probably have my picture up. Yeah, I mean, CU might have to build the Travis Hunter wing for all of this that he's bringing home. They've got murals and kind of, the lonely Heisman Trophy there. And Colorado as a program, I believe prior to this year, had pulled home 10 individual awards in its history. I think Brian had that number as well. And Travis had six of them himself this year, which, by the way, if you're curious, another number, shout out to Brian, is the second most individual awards ever won in a single season. Okay, that he ties for second, and I think it's Manti Te'o. Brian told me the other one. We were sitting there today, and Joe Burrow. And the reason that Joe Burrow had seven is because that year they gave the Lombardi Trophy to a quarterback, which is bizarre. But the point is that Travis has rewritten major college football history as well as everything at CU, everything he's accomplished for the school, but it extends much further than that. It's to college football in its entirety, which is why I think anyone who's watched the program, anyone who's watched this young man, has a full understanding of what we are watching, and that is something that's unprecedented. Something that we haven't seen before. That's why it is so special. And that's why, as media members, we walked into that Heisman room today and, kind of, it was like, this is kind of a formality. When you look at the Heisman odds, it has been. The race has really been over for the last month or so, and Travis's lead has only gotten more substantial, and he closed as a massive favorite. I think he's minus 2,500. I think ESPN bet had it 2,250. Jaden Daniels closed his largest number last year at close was 1362. There haven't been many guys over the last 10 years that have closed with higher odds than Travis. Joe Burrow did, and I think Baker Mayfield did, but it was because of, first of all, for Burrow was because he had the best season for any quarterback in college football history, number one. But I think it was also competition relative to that year in the race. And the other award, which is definitely worth mentioning, is Travis was voted the Associated Press's Player of the Year yesterday, which is a very prestigious honor to have the Associated Press vote on you to be that guy. And the past, I think, like 10 winners have won the Heisman of that too. And so, look, we know why we're here in New York, and we've expected a lot of this, but sometimes it doesn't go that way. And when it is close, some of these awards get split and it could be a toss up, but it wasn't close. And voters recognize that. Voters recognize that. If you've watched a young man, you know the drill. Okay. Uh, Now let's get into what we talked about today with Travis. Um, I think it's interesting here. It was funny because the way they set it up, they had all four candidates, Genty, Gabriel, and Ward, all in the same room, this small little auxiliary room, this little, kind of meeting room here at the Marriott. And it was a bad setup because everybody was going to be talking over each other. They really should have factored that in. It would not have been hard to find four little separate areas to break out four huddles. But for convenience and for national media members, if you wanted to bounce around and ask different guys questions, that's really all you could do. Well, the huddle around Travis dwarfed the size of everybody else. Why? Because everybody understands why we're here. I mean, it's just not that complicated to figure it out. Now, that being said, it was probably the longest amount of time that we have actually gotten to speak to Travis since he arrived in Boulder. He doesn't do a lot of media. Coach Prime has certainly, not forced his hand to do that at all. And, Travis has always said he wants to make it about everybody else, which I believe is true too. But now that he's only got one game left in college and he's about to be the first or second overall pick, depending upon how things shake out, or the third, I guess. But I mean, anyway, that's a different conversation for after the year. The point is that he's going to be in front of a microphone quite a bit over the next, 5 months or so. And I've never been really concerned that he didn't have enough media training because he's a wonderful personality. At the beginning, he was a little bit short, but he was focused, and it was clear it wasn't his favorite thing to do. But the one thing I know about Travis, his personality always shines out, right? Always shines through. And so, he did a wonderful job up there today. And it's funny. It's funny whenever you get in this like little national media circles where you got a bunch of different national guys who aren't used to what comes with the territory, those guys get frustrated, as maybe some of us did at the beginning of this whole experience when you're dealing with this media. And look, I get this too, but some people who are in the media just want to hear themselves talk to players. And I respect that as well because, hey, look, I get where the allure comes from there. And certainly when you're dealing with superstars like Coach Prime and Shedeur and Travis, that kind of comes with the territory. But one of these guys was, kind of doing the patented "let me compliment you 1,000 times before I ask you a question." And one of these national guys to my right was just lose his mind, like, "Come on, man, get your question out." And I just look at him, I'm like, "First time, huh, bud?" Because it's just different covering these guys than it is anyone else, really. It is, unless you're in it all the time, you don't really understand it. So look, it was just a funny thing, kind of, inside baseball that I thought you guys might enjoy. Travis was asked about all the awards, and he was talking about that as I brought up. And like I said, I mean, they're gonna, Travis Hunter's face is going to be plastered all over the Champion Center, as it should be. As it should be. He's the best player in program history. And when he pulls home the Heisman Trophy tomorrow, that should cement his case to be one of the, I guess now with his name, one of the five guys to have their number up on the facade of Folsom Field. Now, I've heard from a lot of you. I brought this up with Brian on a podcast about should Travis's number be retired? It absolutely should. Colorado stopped retiring numbers a while ago, though, is what we had found out. And now they do legacy numbers. And obviously, there's only four up there. It's time to change that a little bit. These alumni clubs, these organizations, they're the ones that create the rules. And when you have such a special, I don't know, person like this and special thing happen to you, you need to recognize it and capitalize on that. And I hope that his number goes up on the facade next year. It needs to happen while Coach Prime is here. And I don't, I'm not saying that he'll be gone after that, but just take care of business during the bye week or at some other point. Trav needs to come back to get the 12 put up on the wall, and that needs to be established as a legacy number, retired number, legacy number. I don't care. It needs to be up there. Not a question. And again, if you're not aware of my personal philosophy, I would give a lot of guys their just due, and you might end up running out of numbers. But Trav is one for sure that has earned that, okay? And so if it were me, would I put Shedeur up there? Probably. He'd be right next to Lou Fau and a bunch of other guys from that national championship team. But I digress. A couple of other things here to recognize. I wanted to talk to Travis about the bowl game and why he felt it was important to play in it, because what Colorado is doing by having Shedeur and Travis and a lot of these other seniors and NFL draft picks play in the bowl game is they're bucking what has been the latest trend of players opting out of bowl games. And one thing that I've tried to explain to a lot of my media cohorts, because one thing on podcasts and in interviews that I've been asked over the last couple of weeks, it's why would they play? Why would they do that? Why would they? And it's like you guys don't get it. These dudes, these cats are old school, man. They're never backing down from a fight, and that's what college football fans have been wanting. So why would you scoff at that? I mean, what's the problem here? Okay, yeah, they could get hurt. They get hurt in bowl practices. They could get hurt in private workouts. I just these guys are going to finish what they started. And I think people also have to understand this is about the journey for them. It's not just about this season. This is about the last opportunity to be together and to go out with a cherry on top, because they haven't won a bowl game yet. And that would be big for them to be able to have that opportunity. And more than that, when you're having fun, you don't want it to end. And they're having a lot of fun. Now, they're already, I think, in their own ways, or have prepared themselves for what the next step will be in everybody's respective lives and careers. But at the same time, it's never going to be like it is right now again. And you have one opportunity left. And by the turn of the year, by the end of this month, 18 days, 19 days, it's all going to be over. I mean, even less than that. So you got to cherish it. And I love that about them. They're not going to back down. They know what it would look like if they did, and they're not doing that. And more than that, it's about playing ball. It's about the love of the game. Coach Prime always talks about, I want guys who love the game. Do you really love the game? These guys love the game. Pretty simple. And anyway, so it was good to hear from Travis, and I'm curious if it will have an effect on other guys around the country, or maybe help reverse the trend. I did see there are some guys that are going to be sitting out of their bowl games as expected, but I mean, if BYU did, it'd make BYU look pretty soft, in my opinion. Don't back down from the fight. I understand the business and the financial implications behind it. If you choose to sit out and believe that's what's best for your personal future, you reserve the right to do that. That being said, especially when you're as impactful as a guy like Shedeur or as a guy like Travis is to your own team, it's a terrible precedent to set. And there's a lot of people who say you want it that way, but then question it, and I just don't understand it. And as far as the BYU prep, Travis was asked about if he's looked at him. Of course he has. This guy's a football junkie. He's been breaking down tape. First of all, he talked about how they've been breaking down common opponents all year, so he's seen a lot of BYU this season in the Big 12 Conference, which I guess is one of the, I don't know, added benefits, if you want to say, to having a little bit better understanding of the team that you're going to play in the bowl game, by having it be, the old Pac-12 versus the Big 12, is that you'll have pre-scouted these guys, so you should have a general basis of understanding of kind of what they're about. And now you get into the nitty-gritty. And I'll remind everyone that every time Colorado has had an extended period to scout teams, they've been dialed in. It's about the execution. And I would say only coming off the bye weeks this year has that been a little hit or miss. At TCU, they go down and then they lose that game to Kansas State they should have won. So, it was not TCU, at Texas Tech, excuse me. They go down 13-0 right out of the gate. So, look, it's all about being able to dial back in. But as far as, X's and O's and a scout, they're on it. They're preparing for it. I mean, these guys aren't going to let time slip. I was watching Shedeur and Travis the other day. I think it was on Travis's podcast. And, Shedeur said, look, we've had a little bit of a break, but we're locking right back in. And so did Travis. And, these guys understand. They even brought up how they don't really get much of an offseason. They'll get a little bit of one, but not much this year. Not until you get through the draft process and get to the league, and then your second year is typically, a little bit more time away from the game. But the truth is, as you're a young man, as you're a young player developing into the pro you're going to become, you got to take advantage of those opportunities, especially for those two guys who have to hit the ground running because they're going to be drafted as franchise players. That's the truth. A couple other things to note. Travis talked about, Brian asked him if he loves Colorado more than he thought he would when he got here. And I think that's a common theme for, Coach Prime and Shedeur and a lot of these guys, that when you get to Colorado at first, maybe you have preconceived notions. Oh, it snows a lot. Newsflash. We got 300 days of sunshine and it's stunning. No humidity. I mean, out here, it's 30 degrees feels like 10 degrees at home. It is a completely different ball game. It's a beautiful area. People leave you alone. As Travis mentioned, it's very chill. And I can see how much it has left an impression on him. He said he thinks it's the best state. He doesn't want to leave. And he definitely didn't have to say that because he was very honest about not wanting to come to Colorado at first, and then it grew on him as he learned. And I'll tell you what, it was the same way for me being from Chicago. Moved out here, single mom. I didn't want to do it when I was a kid. I always thought I'd find my way back to the big city from Boulder, and I can't imagine myself leaving. There's a reason why I'm still there. Travis also talked about leaving a two-way legacy, and I think that's a good point because it's not just the legacy he's left to Colorado. I think you will see other guys attempt to do at least a version of what Travis has done, or at least ask for that opportunity from their respective schools and coaching staffs. They're not going to be able to do what Travis has done. I don't think we'll ever see it again, quite honestly. Maybe we will, but I'd be pretty surprised to this degree. It takes a special coach and an even more unique and gifted talent to be able to do it, but players should be given the opportunity to do it a little bit more, in college. And I think we will see a little bit more freedom kind of across the country start to take hold, because we know that some team will watch that and go, I'm going to take that and try it. And, Travis is a role model for a bunch of these young kids, and they'll grow up and feel like they can do it. And part of Travis's secret sauce is that he always did it. He did it in high school. He did it the whole time. And he found a coach that was willing to give him the opportunity to do it. Now, the key is you got to lock down one side and prove that you can be an elite guy on one side of the ball before you allow that player to really go full time or at least dabble enough on the other side of the football because people don't understand how much work that takes. Multiple meetings, multiple scouts. It is tons of recovery and so much work on your body. You got to be so smart. Your football IQ's got to be off the charts. It is a different ask than just being a student athlete, which is basically like having two full-time jobs. It is in and of itself. Now, Travis also talked about how, he's not doing in-person classes and all this. And, I think that there's part of that college experience. But the truth is that if you can handle your business, what's the point? I mean, I get it. Travis is smart enough. This man's about to be, first or second or third overall pick in the draft. And the truth is that he is plenty smart enough. He's handling his work at home, and that is what it is. But it's also the part of new college football. You don't go out, and maybe it would be different if you were younger, obviously freshman, sophomore. But by the time he arrived in Colorado, he had already accumulated so much notoriety that wouldn't make sense for him. And the schedule, to keep it balanced, it's a bit of a sacrifice that you do have to make, and not everybody's built for it. That is true as well, because if you want to be the man off the field, you got to handle your business and make sure that you don't let it slip. And being college age, having all that responsibility on your own to do all that work by yourself at home, it's not easy. It's not easy. At least it wouldn't have been for me. That's for sure. I guess I can only speak from personal experience. Um, and he also said he's leaving the legacy of a guy who's doing things the right way, which is true. He does everything the right way. He does it all the right way. And that'll be a really good thing. And I've talked about this several different times at during these bowl practices with some of these younger recruits coming in. It'll be great for those guys to see how Shedeur and Travis and Shiloh and Cam and go down the list of all the seniors and all the guys leaving handle their business, because as Cameron Silman Craig brought up after the Oklahoma State game, they came to a program where the standard had evaporated. And part of what they did over the course of 2 years was establish a new one. And a big part of that is going to be through the players that were here the last couple of years or here this year and understand what it was like, and them translating it down and developing it to, and sharing it with those new players incoming in the portal or incoming freshmen. But those who do get a sneak peek at what it's supposed to look like in bowl practices, that's an invaluable experience. Travis also spoke about how this is a dream for him and that it hasn't really sunk in yet, but it probably will tomorrow night when he wins the Heisman Trophy, the ceremony. He said tomorrow night. I'm saying when he wins. I think we all understand. And even Travis understands how big of a favorite he is in this. And, he has handled this extremely well, as only we would have expected him to. Really. I also asked him about his younger brother, Travis. His younger brother, Travis, I believe he's a sophomore. He's starting to really make a little name for himself. And Travis said that he didn't really want to, step on his toes too much so he could carve his own path. And he's doing well, and he's starting to come into his own. And I asked him if Coach Prime's been in his ear already. He said Coach Prime has definitely been in his ear already about Travis. And so another interesting point that was brought up, and obviously during this scrum, you get a lot of different questions from national media, some who have already asked these questions before, we know them, or it's just some kind of looking towards the future. And some guy brought up jokingly, should the NFL double your salary if you play both ways? That'll be interesting to see how that's handled. I don't think, because of the collective bargaining agreement and the rookie wage scale, there's much, if anything, he can do. Well, first of all, there's nothing he can do. I don't believe that first contract. The second contract, if he does end up playing both ways, which we believe he will, and I know he will, and I believe he's more than capable of, what does that look like? That'll be a fascinating conversation, especially if he proves he can do it at an elite level at that level, which I have no doubt in my mind he will, and that'll be a fun little conversation moving forward, and I'm sure he'll be all over that. He did also just sign with Adidas. It has been a hell of a week for Travis Hunter, no doubt about it. And he's the reason we're here in New York. We all had a good time up there today with the little presser. And, tomorrow night's festivities start. It'll go late into the night here in New York, and then, back to Colorado and, getting ready for San Antonio here over Christmas in a couple of weeks. But well, I'll drop a little bit more either tomorrow night or when I get back. And Just wanted to give everybody a heads up on kind of what was going on and some of my thoughts since we haven't spoken here in a little while, just me. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. Follow me at Real Matt Smith everywhere on social media. Got some great photos and videos up from today, and drop yourself in the comments, like and subscribe, and we'll talk soon.